Hey everyone, welcome to Loud and Proud. Today's interview is actually called Alice Beyond the Looking Glass. I would like to introduce to you Alice, who is live with me now on interview. Alice is, well, a Rush fan, also a bit of a historian on Rush, and she's had a project about informing people about release dates and stuff like that. So, welcome to the show, Alice. Thanks for coming
Thank
on.
you. Thank you so much.
So, why don't you tell us a bit about how you became a Rush fan?
Oh, well, that happened probably in 1974 at the earliest that I can remember with the Rush debut album. But prior to that, we had a little bit of Rush on the radio in 1973 with Not Fade Away, right? And anyways, yeah, so I knew about the band way back then. I want people to know that gossip came through the grapevine all the way from Toronto to Calgary when I was a kid.
In
So
1973.
in 1974,
In
I can go
74,
that far
okay.
back. But I
But they
have
had
done the
music
research on the
playing.
radio for 1973.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, the grapevine gossip came all the way to Calgary because I remember, and if I remember correctly, older kids and that would go to Toronto to go see the band and then come back. Or you would hear, oh, blah, 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 so and so called me on the phone and said, this band, they're crazy, And so I knew
Really?
about them way back then. And I've been a fan since 1974, looking at those pictures on the back of Getty, John Rutsey, and Alex, of course. And then, but by 1975, when Fly By Night came out, that's when that was it. I heard Vitor and the Snow Dog, and I was in love. So that was the song, and that's why I have that one particular tribute video I made in regards to that song and in memory of Neil, because I love Neil and
Well,
Alex.
myself being a Rush fan, I can say that you're teaching me some stuff here because I had no clue that you were just saying that in 1973, people were traveling from different parts of the country to go see them in Toronto.
As
So
far as I remember in the vague depths of my memory, yes, they were talked about back then in Canada.
incredible,
Yeah,
incredible. And then there was the release of the Moon Records album, which was their first album, which was just a
yeah,
self-titled Rush, right?
yeah.
Now was that just released in Canada through Moon Records?
Yeah, that was released on March 18th, and I have some of that in my presentation
Yep.
because it was Joe Pesh who he's been communicating with me off and on for a few years because I I think because he knows I'm serious about the
Hmm.
history of the band, and he's serious too, and so are a couple other people that I've been corresponding with.
Hmm.
And so he gives me stuff.
Well, that's pretty cool.
It
Now,
is.
you said you have a presentation. What does that do? Is it represent a bit of a timeline on release and all that, or
Yeah, for 2112, but I also have a little bit of I'm beginning with permanent waves and a
well?
little bit of other trivia.
So let's start with that, and let's see what you got. And I'm curious to see what you got. You're going to share that with
Okay.
us?
Yeah,
Thank you.
but just bear with me, like I
That's
said,
okay.
because
I've got my tea. I'm good.
okay,
I got all the time in the world.
great. Okay. So, hello there. Hey, man. So, beginning with permanent waves. And this is done on PowerPoint, by the way, and I love
Hmm.
PowerPoint, so it was fun. So, I created this meme here, released in Canada Wednesday, January 9th, 1980 on the Anthem label. 5 days later, on Monday, January 14th, 1980, Mercury distributed 300,000 records into the United States. So
Oh,
what I have here is an article called FM Radio Earns Plaudits from Rush by Keith Sharp on Music Express. And Music Express was the magazine that was started in Calgary.
Oh,
way back in the day, and it was Ian Mark who actually was taking pictures of concerts way back in that time. So I actually found a picture of myself at the Farewell to Kings uh, show,
that's cool.
and but it's in front of Kim Mitchell and Max Webster, and I'm in the front, right, hanging off the stage there. But we took off there and we kind of snuck in. That was my first freebie concert. Permanent Waves was my second one that I snuck into, because we did that back then. We snuck into shows, and I was
Yeah, that
good
was a
at it.
big
So
thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure in Canada, anyways. So here's the Music Express article, and so I guess I'll just read through quickly. Did you
Yeah.
know? And then on the webmaster's note on 2112.net, which is Power Windows, which I've been told is run by Eric Hansen, he wrote, this article discussed a live in England album recorded during a string of dates at London's famed Hammersmith Odeon. The concerts were also filmed for a possible feature movie. The string of dates would have been the 4 consecutive nights at the Odeon, May 4th to 7th, 79. The film project was aborted or later lost. When preparing material for the Hemisphere's 40th anniversary edition, no trace or record of this film could be found. So that's kind of
Oh.
a drag, but that's just
Now,
something.
do we know what movie this was gonna be?
That's all the information I have is what I take off
Really?
Power Windows. Yeah, if I
So
had
these guys could have
communication with
been in a
Eric,
movie earlier on.
yeah, yeah. So that's just an interesting little bit of
That is
tidbit of
very
information.
interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah. So all of this presentation, I'm just going to read over because that's how I'm doing it.
Yep.
The spirit of radio goes out to all stations who are promoting the domestic industry, noted flaxen-haired guitarist Alex Lifeson. The major FM stations are making it easier for local groups to make a name for themselves in this country. They are getting support that was initially denied us. We had to tour the United States and Europe extensively before we got any credit in Canada. But now that the FM stations are making an effort to promote local talent, it's getting a lot easier to obtain recognition in your own country. And Alex Lifeson wasn't particularly thrilled with Permanent Waves when the project first completed and was apprehensive about that public response, which I found interesting because I
That
didn't
is
know that.
interesting.
Yeah. So Alex couldn't listen to the album and said he was really disappointed. If you can believe that. So the
Really?
album is when Rush chose to go to Lakewood Farms in Ontario to get to work. They changed course due to weather in the UK and the costs. Neil worked on his lyrics at a cottage up there while Alex and Getty jammed in a farmhouse basement. And they recorded the demos at Sound Kitchen in Toronto and then went to Lay Studio in Quebec to finalize those sessions for Permanent Waves. They finished laying tracks in a month rather than their usual 3-month period, according to this article.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what they did with Permanent Waves. Now I knew that was coming out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I chose to just share this map up here. It's just a Google map. So they're in Toronto. They
Oh,
went up there. That's where the farmhouse was. Then they drove all the way over to Quebec, you know.
yeah. The
So I
famous
like
The
maps.
Studio.
Yeah, 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 for sure. And there's just, one of their great pictures from there. Some of the pictures I take off rush.com, some of them I take off other websites.
Nice.
So, the spirit of radio, Jacob's Ladder, and Free Will. I put Free Will in quotes because in the article it says farewell, which was an error in typing.
Oh,
Yeah, they were all written during the semi-tour of some of the hemispheres, which diverted from their usual write everything while hunkered in, so to speak. And that's my wording. And Getty said, what success we have achieved has been built from the street level. We've taken our music to the kids and built up that to the following point that the industry had to recognize us. If we listened to our critics and followed their advice, we wouldn't have gotten anywhere. We'd still be playing in some local bar on Yonge Street. After which Getty said how 2112 was the album that broke us internationally. Thank you, guys.
So true. So true. Because after Caress of Steel, they didn't think that they were going to survive.
And I love Caress of
Me
Steel.
too.
And I get the certain riff from Fountain of Lamnef
Fountain of
of
Lamnef. Yep.
Alex's riff, and it's just like sometimes it'll just into my head, and I'm like, ah,
Yep.
there it is again, you know.
For
So
me, it's Bastille Day. It just
is
gets me.
it?
Yeah, I
Is
love
it?
it. I've covered it in one of my videos. I love the
Oh,
drumming. I love it. Oh yeah, it's on one of my YouTube videos. I covered it because I love the drumming in it and I love the lyrics. It's got that specific sound. It's Rush.
I will definitely check out that video.
Thank you.
So yeah, next phase. And in this same article, Permanent Waves, a Permanent Waves review shows us that Permanent Waves was out as a pre-release that February of 1980 in Canada, according to what I've researched and found. So here we see a blurb in reviewing a Rush album. One has to approach it from two aspects: the bread and butter virtues of actual music and the advanced psychology of Neil Peart's writing. I don't know why it is, but this writer always gets the feeling he's being lectured to when I play a Rush album, which I wanted to share with that because
Ah,
as I wrote here, note, my Don't Lecture Me Neil song is Kid Gloves, and I've said that since 1984. So handle with kid gloves, then you learn the weapons and the way of hard knock school, put on your kid gloves. And I chose to that because it's just really one of those things that, was he being sarcastic or not sarcastic? I don't know, but it was like, okay, because, you know, like kids in high school or junior high, you fight, you just
yeah.
plain fight, you know. So I wrote, if folks don't think Neil had a sense of humor with added hints of sarcasm, check out RMR Rick and Neil Peart on the Mercer Report YouTube channel from March 17th, 2010, and then go read issue 6 from Bubba's Book Club, October 1st, 2006, along with Where Words Fail, Music Speaks, June 1st, and Neil's News, Weather, and Sports. And then go listen to Animate from Counter.
Great
Try and
song.
tell me if that isn't kind of contradictory and sarcastic at the same time, you know? So I just chose some beautiful pictures of each of our lovely guys here.
This is
And
great information. Wow.
oh, I know. I love researching, so I very much enjoyed doing this. And so I just chose to catch this little blurb over here, you know. It's just that Permanent Waves Anthem review, and that's just a copy of it. So you
That's
can,
really cool.
and yeah, yeah. So it was just very enjoyable for me to do. So as this anthem document shows, Rush Permanent Waves, I got this from Joe Pesh. And so, oh, I did right. He gave it to me last January 15th, a year ago.
Okay.
And so we know now, you can see by this article, January 5th, you know,
Yeah.
it shows where they tickets go on sale, Permanent Waves. Did I write? Oh, I did write the right date. Good. So January 4th, it aired all over the radio stations in Canada.
Okay.
And then on January 9th, it was released in Canada only. So the true release date
Hmm.
of Permanent Waves is January 9th in Canada. Afterwards, on January 14th, Mercury then it released an additional 300K records into the States. And the next day
Hmm.
after that release, Alex Getty and Neil went up to the Maritimes and went to Fredericton for their first gig for that particular series. And I just included a concert ticket on
That's a
there.
really cool concert ticket pick. I like that.
Yeah, I probably took that off John Patuto's Cygnus X1 website.
That
Because
is
some,
cool.
yeah. Oh, no, I got it off Power Windows. Hang on. There it is, Power Windows. For fans who care, like you, me, Joe, and others. Yeah, okay, so I
That is
did. They're
cool.
probably on both of them then. I know it's on Cygnus too. So anyways, the beautiful book, Rush the Day I Was There. Are you familiar with this book?
No, I'm not actually.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not. Seriously,
Oh,
you're giving me some
okay.
great information.
So this book is written by Richard Houghton, and just give me a sec.
Sure.
I may as well grab both. Here's my Getty book. Hi,
Yep.
Getty. And there it is.
Oh, wow.
And it's got a picture of Alex on the back. Can you see that? Let me see. Get that better.
No, I can't see it. There we go. I can see it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I got wind of this. I don't even remember how, but it was released and published in December of 2020. Somehow I caught wind of him doing a call out for fans to write their Rush stories, you know, of whatever show they were there. So this is mine here. I was there, and it's the first one in the encore section because this guy up here wasn't there.
That's right.
So yeah, so I was really actually flattered. It's a condensed version of the email I sent him. So if you don't mind, I'll just read quickly this
Please
blurb
do.
here. So I saw this tour at the Max Bell Arena on March 24th, and this is the show I wrote to Richard about. My friend Carol and I, and we're still friends because we've been friends since elementary school, but she lives in Calgary. And we sat on the damn sidewalks begging people to buy tickets for us. We were both 15 at that time, and nobody would buy for us because we were refused to buy tickets. So I believe probably because we were underage. So
Ah,
anyways, so it would have been me, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna take the bus. Let's go try and sneak into the show. And we did. And we took the bus a long way. And at that particular time, the Max Bell Arena was like way out in the outskirts of town, right at the edge of town. So we walked quite a little bit of a ways. And then we stood over this hill watching the roadie trucks until we saw nobody moving, hey? And then we snuck in behind the roadie trucks, but we got caught laughing in an alcove. So
oh,
some dude came over. I remember he was quite tall. And anyways, if I remember right, he also had a ball cap on, but I'm not too sure because I mean, that was so long ago. But anyways, he caught us, and then another fella came over and started talking to us, and we were blah, 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 telling our story and what have you. Well, we were allowed in. So, and as I
wow.
wrote here, I guess because we were girls. And so these two fellas said, okay, you can go in. And what I do recall is going through that crowd of boys, almost all boys. And I remember elbowing my way through the crowd and then looking at some tall guy and saying, excuse me, and him giving me the evil eye. And I remember, and I didn't care. All I cared about was going to see Rush, Permanent Waves, blah, blah, blah. Man, like I've loved that band forever. So
Wow.
that's my Rush the day I was there story, and thanks to Richard Houghton for publishing my little
That
blurb.
is so cool. Now talk about what a memory for you to have that published and for you to talk about, on this interview because back then you were right. You said it was mostly males. Well, Rush did, they did relate more to the males than the females, right? I mean,
Oh
there
yeah.
were some, but it was still more of a male dominated crowd than it was. So, and this is actually really fascinating that you just, got in there. What a fluke story, but like amazing. That
Oh,
must
here.
be the highlight for you.
Oh yeah, it's a fantastic memory. And then, so my friend and I, Carol, we're in touch on Facebook, and so I shared a few pictures, and I'm like, okay, so I took a picture of Ian Grandy. He has a picture on his Facebook, so I took a copy of that, and I said, do you remember this face at all? And she goes, writes back, well, how on earth can you even remember this stuff? And I said, well, because that face looks so familiar. So I'm not certain if he was one of the fellas that we talked to or not, but he sure looks awfully familiar to me. So yeah, and,
Wow.
and I got to tell you one more thing. Now, my mom has passed away now a little over 5 years ago. And she died suddenly within 2 months of an undiagnosed cancer. So it's kind of rough on me. But what I do
I'm
remember
sorry
is,
to hear that.
Yeah, I know. I hate cancer. And I hate anything in the world that's cancer. So, but we were shopping one day or window shopping and whatever, we were walking somewhere. And I just looked at my mom one day and I said, "Hey, Mom, do you remember when Carol and I did this and took the bus a long way to the Max Bell Arena?" And my mom looks at me and gives me the mom look. "You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that." And I just laughed. And I said, "Oh, I'm glad you remember." She knew about my fandom of Rush. My kids grew up knowing about my love of the band. And, like I wasn't on social media a lot about it or this or that, but all through the years, I've read whatever I can off Power Windows, off Cygnus when Cygnus came around, various articles, this, that, or the other. But prior to that, as a kid growing up, I mean, I would be skipping school reading magazines, music magazines.
You were one of those.
Yeah, yeah. I skipped school because I was a rotten kid. Not really, but yeah, I was. I skipped school a lot. So I made this beautiful meme here. Invisible airways crackle with life, bright antenna, bristle with the energy. Thanks, Rush Font Project. That's with Permanent Waves font. Now I caught this picture of Neil, and that's taken from the 1984 Grace Under Pressure show in Toronto. And over the years, I would
Wow.
watch this video, and I think it was on Snow Dog's channel. But until Stick Hits revamped it, it was then that I saw my friend Loopy, my friend Basil, and I in the Spirit of Radio song where the spotlight comes down at about, I forget what time stamp it is, but it's when the spotlight comes down onto the audience. And you'll see this chick with white blonde hair, because I had bleached blonde hair because it was after the summer.
I'm gonna have to look at that.
And I have a white blouse on, and I remember buying new clothes for that show. And, so my friend Loopy and I were also friends from Calgary, but I had left the army. I gave my resignation that summer and I left the army and I went to Toronto and I was with my kids' dad. Like we had kids later, but anyways, he wasn't there. He took off with his aunt and uncle, I think. But so I'm like, I met this guy, Basil. I was working at a random house packing books. And I met this guy, and we just hit it off right away and became really good friends. And he played guitar. He's no longer with us either. But I would sing, he would play guitar. He lived at his parents' house, and I'd go over there after work and we'd jam and drink beers. And so one day I go in to Basil's place after work, and there's this woman curling her hair in the flipping bedroom. And sure enough, it's bloody Loopy. And I look at her and she looks at me, what the fuck? And holy shit. So I mean, oh, small world, you know.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, we hung out for years in Toronto, and then we all moved back to Calgary in 1989 in a rental truck. But anyways,
Wow.
look at Neil's beautiful smile, and he did smile when he was,
Oh yeah.
you know, on the drums in a show. I mean, he was totally serious, but man, I think he's so handsome there with that rat tail. He was just so handsome. All the guys were handsome at that show. Well, they're always handsome too. So yeah, so I'll just read that. Over the years, I would watch the older one thinking, hey, that chick in the spotlight looks like me. And I would say that over and over until I found that Stick Hits video. But yeah, those
We need to
I got,
find that video and get a screenshot of that.
yeah, it's on the Stick Hits YouTube channel.
Well, I'm gonna have to look at it. You're gonna have to send me the link so I can get a screenshot of that and I'll point you in it.
Oh, I have a copy of that I sent to Loopy.
Oh
So, and
man, we need
she
that.
wishes, she wishes that they had a better resolution of that. So she wanted to frame it, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, when it's a moving camera, it's hard to get a still shot that's not blurry when it's moving.
Well, plus, it was such an old film, and then he put it up to 1080p, but even still,
Yeah, no, you can't do
it
that with an
can
old
only
film.
work with so much.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you're
But
right. That picture of Neil is awesome because to catch him smiling, it's not, he might do that a few times in a show because he's so focused, right, on everything he
absolutely,
did. So to catch a picture of him live smiling is rare.
I know. I just
That's a
love him.
great
I
pick.
still
That's
love him, even though he's gone from this earth, you
yeah,
know.
it's a sad thing. It really is. Tragic, tragic, tragic.
Oh yeah, it kind of ripped my heart out, and I was in shock for about a month and didn't even register with it very much, and that happened after Gord Downey died of the same frickin'
Same thing. Yep.
glioblastoma,
Yep.
you know. And so, I mean, my family knew how devastated I was about Gordy, and then for Neil to happen to die of the same thing, you know. Anyways,
It's
there's
sad.
nothing we can do about that. I have an uncle who died a little over a year ago. I call him my uncle brother because he's married to my aunt. And we're all quite similar in age and went to school together, and he also died of glioblastoma.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and he lasted almost as long as Neil. He never complained or nothing like that. But I mean, it's a thing, and there's no cure for it. And I wish we could find a
No.
cure, you know.
Yeah.
I just it just, like it affects people on a personal level when you admire and have a love for, your favorite band members or whoever.
Well, I can
And
tell you, I understand that because I did an interview with Chris Stankey.
I
Um,
know.
and you could tell in the interview sometimes, I was trying not to bring it up too much, but I did have to sort of talk about it. You could tell in his voice and, in the conversations we had afterwards off that, this really affected him big time. You know,
Yeah,
Not only did he work for Sabian, but he became such a close friend to Neil, riding together and
yes,
sailing together and like, you build this friendship and then all of a sudden it's gone, in the blink of an eye. And I think
absolutely.
all the Rush fans, I think we all fell on our asses the day that it was announced. I think
Yeah.
every single one of us just felt our hearts sink. And you know what? You know what song I thought of? Nobody's Hero.
Oh, of course you did.
I thought about that right away, where thinking, you know what? Neil was nobody's hero for those who don't know him. He wouldn't wanna be because he didn't
No,
like any sense of adulation or anything like he says,
no.
right? But that's the first song that popped in my head was, "Oh my goodness, there's this guy who changed." Not only did he change Rush, by joining, 'cause
Yeah.
he was a big, massive stepping stone, but in the music industry too, he changed a lot of things in the way lyrics are written and,
Oh man.
and the poetry and, he
Yeah.
inspired so many others. And
He
to me,
is my inspiration for lyrics. I
oh yeah,
love what he wrote.
I advise anyone, you know what, if you're not a Rush fan, don't if even if you don't listen to the music, go look up some lyrics and go read them and see how deep these lyrics are.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's a lot involved in his lyrics. So,
Well, I just want you to know I did watch your interview with Chris Stanky and the Sabian one as well.
oh, thank you.
So just so that you know, I did do
I'm
that.
not I'm not surprised. You're a Rush fan. Of course you would.
Well, I was interested in what he had to say and the questions that you had to ask, so
So
I'm
carry on. This is really
okay.
awesome what you're showing me here.
So beginning now on to Rush 2112.
The
And
album that made it.
yeah, that's the only album out of every record I've ever listened to. It's the only one I have a complete and distinct memory of listening to for the first time. It was in the rumpus room of some school friend's basement with a bunch of us kids there, and he threw on 2112. And I asked what it was. And of course, he said it's Rush 2112. Well, I asked to look at the album cover, and that was that. And I was like, holy smokes. And this chick, there wasn't too many girls there, but there was a few. And this one girl, she stood up. She's like, I'm going to change the album. And I stood up and I said, sit down. You're not changing this till we're listening to the whole thing. And I'll never forget it. So I was just, how old was I then? Probably 11. I was still 11. So
Wow.
anyways, yeah. I was still 11. I turned 12 that year. So the true history and release date of Rush 2112, that is Friday, March 26, 1976, in the US on the Mercury label. And of course, I labeled it my Rush 2112 Journey to Discovery for obvious reasons. So these are just a few excerpts. So this is just one of the particular ads I chose to share because I like the ad. Suddenly you're thrust through the barriers of time into Russia's chilling vision of the year 2112, a time of temple vision, megadon, twin moons, and atmospheric domes, a time when the city and sky merge into a single plane. Discover it for yourself on side one of Russia's new rock opera, 2112. And man, I just dig that.
Well, here's a question for you.
Sure.
What was the first song you heard? Was it 2112?
It was side one.
It was side one. Okay. So
Yeah.
what was
It was the
going
whole,
through
I made
your
them listen
head?
to the whole album.
What was going through your head when you heard the intro of 2112?
What is this? That was my first question. And that's when he said, well, it's Rush 2112. And then that's when I asked him to give me a copy of give me his album cover so I could look at it. And I sat there and we listened to the whole thing and then I left. That's all I remember.
You were
So that
probably
probably
you
had
were
to be in
drunk on
April.
music.
Yeah, well, I wasn't drunk because I didn't drink then. I was still
No,
too
no,
young.
no.
Well, you
Drunk
never
on
know. My
music.
grandpa, yeah, for
Drunk on
sure.
music. Yep.
My grandpa might have given me beers by then. You never know. So I think it was in about November 2022 when William, who runs his website and his YouTube channel, Rush Archives, he approached me over Twitter and asked if I could help him, possibly. I don't know how he caught wind of me, but he did. And I am very grateful to William because he's an awesome guy who's as serious as I am about dates, times, numbers. I'm a numbers freak. So I did help him. And his idea was the Rush 2112 tour start date, which is listed in Rush the Day, Rush Wandering the Face of the Earth, which I also have that book. I should have brought that over too, but I didn't. And it's also on both Cygnus and Power Windows, stating February 6th, they believed was the start date, but no, no, no. And William was correct. So he had a few things going on, but there's this that I believe I found this one, this Starwood ad, another Canadian contribution to America. Geddy Lee, Alex Lifes, and Neil Peart, better known collectively as Rush, surged onto the Starwood stage. That began, as you can see, March 15th for a 4-day gig at the Starwood. So this
Hmm.
here I found on the Power Windows website. But what he really needed was this. And I did digging, a lot of reading, a lot of digging to find this flippin' article called Country Campaign Sparks Mercury Spring, where it states in this little white blurb here,
Yep.
exactly they're starting their tour on March 15th. So that's what he needed. And now you can go on both of those websites and see that they are now changed. First, it was changed on Power Windows, then it was changed on Cygnus. So
Oh,
that is successful for us so far. So that was a collaboration, but it was his idea and I was just assisting. I got to make that clear.
that's some good
And
information.
yeah, for sure. So I believe that I caught wind that perhaps there's going to be a second edition of Rush Wandering the Face of the Earth, and we should see that change happen if it is republished. And I'm hoping to see the change of the work I've done as well. So
This is
blah
an
blah
awesome
blah.
thing.
So
Very well
yeah,
done.
yeah. Well, thank you. And so blah blah blah. The Starwood poster. This is what William wrote. Using the new photograph of the kimono wearing band featured inside 2112 album. No documented prior use any 2112 related imagery. imagery, but is proven by a Record World magazine from March 1976 that specifically states Rush would start touring to promote 2112 on March 15th. And I'm just giving my own kudos here. Immense thanks to fellow researcher Alex for finding this
Good for you.
obscure document. Yeah, it was a blast. I was very flattered and complimented. So if I get asked to do something, I'll do it unless I can't, you know.
I think
So
that's awesome.
yeah, I love it. So here is this poster here is what he already had found. And that's on his Rush archives. Well, I belong to his, he invited me to come be a part of his group. So I'm in there now.
That's
And then
cool.
this one here is a lovely picture, a real Rush celebrating backstage after Rush's recent appearance at the Starwood. From left, it looks like Emile Patron, Phonodesk branch manager. Lindy Gates, Mercury promotion manager. There's Lurksty Lurkst. Getty. And this is Danny Rosencrans, Mercury West Coast A&R. And then, of course, Neil. So I just wrote here, incidentally, Saturday, April 3rd, 1976 is the date of the Quebec News article I found recently, like, what was it, last week? Because I
Oh
went and
wow.
did a scholarly search because I'm looking for the Canadian release, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you can read more of that on what is the Canadian release date for Rush 2112. I think this is solved. So, oh, it was November 14th, 2022, when William contacted me, stating how he
Interesting.
heard tracks from 2112 were not played prior to March 8th, and his proposal was March 15th. So that's a collaboration that we did together. And so
That's
I just,
awesome. Great work. I like it.
yeah. Oh yeah, I like it too. He's asked me for more information and I gave him a crap load of stuff. So we'll see what goes with that because I haven't heard from him. You know, I hear from him periodically. So Cream Magazine, March 1976, Pebbles and Bam Bam in Alphaville by Rick Johnson. This is another clue. So out of a quote out of this magazine, now I went and created an account so I could gain access to this actual magazine, but you can read it on Cygnus X1. It's just not this particular copy. So their latest project is an epic science fiction slab called 2112, which will take up an entire side of their next album. Oh, typo, due this month. Oh, maybe it isn't a typo because I wrote SIP. Copy retrieved by me from Cream, the Cream website. So you can read that below on my 2112 project.
And I'll include all those links in the video and all that.
Oh, okay, sure, I can send those to
Yep,
you.
everything will be included.
So now, Joe Pesh, again, gave me this not that long ago. It is an RPM sign-in sheet. And as
No
you can see
way.
here, yeah, that's what he told me, and I have every reason to believe him. He's reliable and with high integrity. As you can see, I write about him with in the highest regard. So April 5th, 1976. There's Neil Peart's signature. There's Geddy Lee's.
Yep, I
You can
see it.
tell, you can tell here, home as well.
Yep,
Tell me, who do you think printed that?
they did.
Neil did.
Yeah.
That's Neil's printing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, absolutely, that's Neil's printing. Just take a look at any of his lyric sheets. You can't
That's
tell me it
true,
isn't.
eh? Yes, I'm thinking about it now. I'm visualizing some of the handwritten lyrics he had
Yeah,
there that I seen, and yep, they were right. Yep,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
So, but there is no Alex Lifeson signature, which I found
No,
interesting. So, anyways, just this little bit here. So
this is
I
cool
can't
stuff.
I can't see everything I wrote because it's the background screen. But anyways, blah blah blah. That above promo pic was taken right after the Starwood with all the promo guys suggest that weekend, April 3rd, is what I'm calling promo weekend. Between March 30th and April 6th, there are no concert dates listed on either Power Windows or Cygnus, but in Rush Wandering the Face of the Earth on page 96, there is a show listed for Yakima, Washington at the Sherrard Gymnasium with the support act Sutherland Brothers and Quiver, but that is unconfirmed.
Okay.
So I wrote, nevertheless, we can see Rush had at least 6 days off, if not 7 shows, if not 7 with no shows at that time. But I believe, now I wrote over here, I believe Rush 2112 was released in Canada on Saturday, April 3rd, 1976, with Neil and Geddy into RPM that following Monday. Was Alex there? Well, and did he arrive separately but not sign in? That's what it appears to be. Why? I'll show you in a minute. Now, here is the French ad I found dated April 3rd from the Les Devoirs magazine, all in French. So I have a particular online translator I use, which is much better than Google. And then I also had a fella who translated it for me on Canadian Classic Rock in Facebook, but you can
Okay.
find that in my Canadian version of 2112. You can find his there because I cited him there.
Okay.
So people can see it's fairly accurate translation from what I've heard. I've heard their previous album, Fly By Night, without impressed by anything other than by Rush's huge musical machine. With a name like that, you can't expect little birds and flowers, waltzes, or minuets. The 3 of them to create all this air movement. Alex Lifeson on guitar, Neil Peart on percussion, Geddy Lee on bass and vocals. It's always a bit ominous when a band this small, the sound is necessarily centered, the subtle effects usually reduced to the minimum. And then she wrote, Hot Tuna proves this, and Rush doesn't avoid the pitfall either. A science fiction novel set to music, which I love that.
That is well written. I like that. Yep.
2112 promotes an imaginary world, a creative dream, the Twilight Zone, but
True.
Rush is all talk. Quality begins at home, or charity begins at home. I'll believe they're in their lyrics when they prove it in their music. That's what this young girl wrote in French.
That's pretty cool though. Wow.
Yeah, so I recently found that because I'm determined to find whatever I can on regarding the release of this album in Canada as well. And so I think this is pretty much solved. So, as I
What
wrote
am I looking
here,
at here?
before we move forward, allow me to mention this document given to me again by Joe on the Danforth and Facebook page, February 7th, 2023. This image is now available on Cygnus X1. So this document here is an SRO doc letter that he somehow acquires. He acquires stuff, you know. He just got
Interesting.
some inside information there. So this is an SRO document. And so he wrote this, band together 5.5 years, like it's just his transcription. Toronto, Ontario based, album released in Canada, March 18th. So as we were talking about earlier, the debut album, not
Yeah.
March 1st. And that's wrong in Geddy's book. So if he does a second version, he's going to have to update that too. And there was
You hear that,
no
Geddy?
American.
You got that?
I love Geddy a lot.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
I couldn't tell.
I've loved them forever. So there was no American release at that time. That was released later in August. Okay. So anyways, yeah.
Interesting.
And Joe also gave me this in the very recent past. And this is what's called a master's list regarding the debut album. And so I figured I'd include it because Joe gave it to me. He wants dates, this, that, the other. He wants it recorded. So he
Wow.
gave that to me, November 15th, 2023. And as you can see, it's dated November 15th, 1973. So I wrote, how's that for a sweet gift 50 years down the proverbial garden road? What song wasn't included on the debut? Garden Road.
That is
But you can,
cool, though. That is a cool wow, what an artifact.
it is an artifact.
Yeah,
And
that's what it
allow
is.
me to just say one thing regarding the word artifact, okay?
Yep.
In Canada, because I've cataloged artifacts for the Royal Saskatchewan Museum, just to let you know.
Oh, wow.
Best job I ever had, but it was only a contract. But artifact in Canada is spelled Artefact, not with the letter I. So
I don't
that's
know.
the Canadian British
That's pretty
difference.
cool. I didn't know that.
It is, it's true. So anybody that spells artifact in Canada with an I, you're spelling it wrong.
Teacher has taught us a lesson.
Well, it's the way it is, and everything has to be perfect. I created an entire new database for that company. So, you know,
Wow.
yeah, out of a whole bunch of old databases, it was the best job ever. I loved that job in my balls. So, anyways, onwards. 2112 is a perfect cap to the band's first era. It sold 100,000 copies in its first week of release in March 1976. This is also available in my research project, and I found this off Google Books because it's a book and I can't freaking see it up here by
Mhm.
Jeff Wagner. But anyways, blah, 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 blah. Here it is, and sold 100,000 copies in its first week of release in March 1976. So anybody that's
Wow.
celebrating this after this month
Wow.
in the States is wrong. So I'm good at finding stuff online.
That's good.
Yeah, it's
Good
fun.
researching.
It's fun. Oh, science fiction and classic rock musical explorations of space technology by Robert McFarlane. This is also, you can just find it like on Google Book Preview. So
Okay.
band's subsequent album 2112, March 76, Mercury, marked Rush as a rock band with a vivid imagination and ongoing science fiction orientation. So, excuse me, but it's very dry and I have snow mold allergies.
Oh, sorry to hear
Ah, well, whatever. At least I haven't sneezed yet. Sneezed
that.
3 or 4 times earlier. So, this is a compilation of all the radio add-ons in the States, and especially I'm going to emphasize WMMS,
We all
Cleveland,
know what that is. Isn't wait a minute.
the
Wait a
lovely
minute.
Donna
I thought
Helper.
it was Big Bird. No, it's Donna Halper. That's right.
Well, she's definitely a big bird in the Rush world, isn't she?
She is. She's
She's the
awesome. I loved interviewing her. She's such an amazing lady.
I
She's
watched
so
it.
she's so spunky and just full of love and full of life. She's awesome. I can't say enough good about her.
And straight to the point. Straight to the point.
Yep.
So it took me 4 days to freaking send the letter I initially drafted up to her because I was so nervous. Now, I gotta say, I knew about Donna in 1974. Okay. So as a young girl in 1974, I would have turned 10 that summer. But I remember that picture of her with the guys and holding the album and all. I knew. And I'm like, oh, wow, there's this woman in radio. Look at that, because everybody was a man back then on radio.
Yep.
So, yeah, I knew about it all. Okay. I was a music freak. My parents both loved music a lot. We watched tons of whatever was on TV from like The Pig and Whistle, if you might remember that.
Yeah.
Probably not. You do?
I've seen
Yeah.
it a couple of times. That was just before it stopped. I would have been about 4 or 5 at the time because I believe it was like 78 or 79 when it stopped airing, and I would have
Yeah,
been
it was a
4 or 5.
family thing. It was a
Yeah.
family thing. We watched everything, and including Don Kirshner's rock show, which I saw Rush on, you know. So all of these radio stations added Rush Merc on Friday, March 26th. So I have compiled this all together in one document just for the sake of, and of course you can see it's all highlighted in yellow.
Mhm.
So I wrote It doesn't say what the record title is, but you can conclude it would have been 2112, as confirmed in my correspondence with Donna Halper. So I listed the radio stations here, and these come from pages 26 and 28, and I believe those come from Billboard. So,
Nice.
yeah,
Very cool.
it is. So this other one, this comes from RPM magazine, as you can see, April 10th, 1976, $1 million worth of Rush product. So Bob
Hmm.
Ansel, he went in with, he's the Polydor guy, the rep for Mercury in Canada. And he brought in Rush's new album, 2112, sometime during this week, because April 10th is a Saturday. So was 2112 released in Canada first? No, not according to what Joe Pesh was writing with me about. He believed it was released in the US first. So he was instrumental in my research into
Yeah.
this album. So what's the date of the Canadian release? So according to April 10th, 1976 RPM, Bob Ansel came in from Polydor and he brought in the record that week. So this much we know. And just a little side note I wanted to include, RPM Records Promotion Music was owned by Walt Grealis, who created the publication in 1964 in Canada. So, RPM was considered pretty much the music Bible of Canada in those
Okay.
days.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
that's
that.
just, yeah, yeah. So again, here is the document with them signing in. So again, more digging. I chose that again here to compare because this article, also in April 10th, 1976,
Hmm.
includes a band called Thundermug that I wouldn't remember for the life of me,
Never heard of
But
them.
yeah, well, that's in my Canadian version. I didn't either, so I went and listened to a bunch of their music after I was done finding this. But here it says, Thundermug recently completed a cross-country, blah, 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 quadra concert tour with Quality's Stampeders. Everybody knows the Stampeders.
Yep.
Oh, I loved them too. I saw them often. And they opened for Aerosmith at Toronto's Massey Hall that September. The clincher. Guest appearances have also been logged in with Rush during that band's Stratford, London, and Kingston dates. Now, this is what gets me because in Rush Wandering the Face of the Earth, on Cygnus, and in Power Windows, there are no dates during that particular time between March 31st and April 6th that Rush performed any shows. Those are not recorded.
Interesting.
But we can see here,
Hmm.
this jives with this and this.
Yep.
The week of April 3rd. And of course, this is like published the week after. So yeah, this is something we need people to look into a bit more because I think judging from this looks like they did 3 shows that are not recorded.
Yeah.
During that week, we thought they had off.
This
So
is
we're all,
this is all this is I hate to cut you off, so we're a little short on time, but
that's okay.
this
I'm
is
almost done.
this is really interesting so far. So go ahead.
Yeah, so we're almost done here, 25 pages. So this is just the big ad that Donna Halper told me to go find. I created this meme and gave it to Donna first in thanks of her corresponding with me and putting up with all my flipping questions. She's
Oh,
like, blah, 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 emails, and that. But she did critique my article, and I appreciated it because I hadn't been critiqued by a university professor since
yeah.
2007. So this is just a copy of that meme. And
That is so
what
cool.
she wrote, I'm firmly convinced from all available evidence, March 26th, not April 1st, is when the album was released. Again, as a music director, I would never add a record if I didn't have a copy at the station. It certainly seemed like the last week in March was the right time. Further proof, 2 of the key album rockers that added it last week of March in Billboard magazine. So this is
Ah,
done in La Villa Strangiato font, again, thanks to the Rush Font Project. This is the meme I made for the 2112 tour beginning dates that I worked
okay.
with William. The record ads on March 26th, and I did it in the style of Andy Warhol because I love the pictures and I like to make memes. It's what I do. And finally, this is the last page, April 1st date. It was a US radio hoax. Okay. So
Okay.
what I wrote was I found was the radio stations in the US had a competition for April Fool's Day jokes that year in 1976. Of prominence was reported in Radio and Records, April 2nd, 1976 as followed. KFIG interviewed Rush, ELO, and Supertramp. April Fools. So of course I had to include the bad part. So we're done.
So that's the history. Like now, and
That's
you've
it.
got you're continuing to do stuff too now, right? You're always doing research.
I think I'm done with this particular one. I have a certain story
Yeah.
that I have, I have a certain story that somebody I asked if I could write their story. It's unique and it'll be exclusive, and I should get to that. And then I'm probably done, unless more things come my way and people give me more stuff. So
That is so cool. Now, here's a question for you. Are you a musician at all?
not particularly. I have a guitar. I haven't picked it up since my mom died, really, except for a few times. But I was practicing and doing fairly well. What I do have done in the past is sing, so I'm a pretty good singer. And I actually got, can you see that? Let me see if I can do
No,
that.
you might have to go back full screen again.
Okay, let's see, exit
Yeah.
full screen.
Yeah, stop sharing the screen and we can see you better.
Oh, right. Okay. I'm just gonna go back to basic,
Yeah.
I think. Oh, I don't know if that's working.
Hold on. Let me. Hold on. Oh, I can see you now. There we go. I can see you,
I
and I can
can't
see your
see
desktop.
me.
Yeah, I can
I
see you
can't
full
see
screen now.
me.
Hold on a minute. Let me see how this works here. I'm trying to go back to this, go back to this. No, go back to this. Nope. I'm trying to here view side by side gallery.
I
Oh,
can't maximize it.
it's not allowing me either. Hold on a second. There we go. No, I'm trying to figure this one out too. For some reason, it's not okay. Okay, I can see myself. Um I don't know what's going on. All I can see is your
Okay, well, you know what? Let's just say goodbye. And I don't know what the hell's going on.
well, listen, I am thrilled that you came on here because this was this was awesome. And I'm just thrilled that you were able to share this with us. And I'm going to be posting this stuff. And what I will do is I will have all your links so you can email me the links and I will post them all in the video itself so that people can actually go on your site and do that.
Okay, just give me a sec here. I'm gonna go back to that way. Okay, we're back to this way because I don't know what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, one last thing. I just want to say thank you very much for allowing me to share this information because I want it out there. I think it's important. A number of fans also think it's important, the people that I've worked with on these things, which includes Joe, William, and a special shout out to Donna Halper because she just really, really did me some, I don't know, favors, I guess, and was just so kind and professional. And that's how she rolls.
She's just awesome, but you're awesome too because you've put a lot of time and effort into this. And you know what? In order to be a true fan, this is what it takes, right?
Well,
And you've got what it takes.
Yeah, I just love the band. I love the guys. I love Alex. I love Getty. Getty, he just brought the bass to the forefront. Never mind his wonderful singing. I don't care what anybody says. I frickin' fell in love with it.
Yep.
And then Alex with his guitar, like a long, long time ago, I came up with my own saying that I'm a slave to that guitar. And I am. Nobody can make guitar sound so pretty like him. I rank him up there. Honestly, I don't care what Alex thinks with Jeff Beck. So
I agree 100%.
he makes the guitar sing. He makes it sound forlorn sometimes. I mean, he puts moods into the guitar as much as both, like Geddy did with his bass and like Neil did with his drums. And even when Neil didn't use any of his drums and just used the odd other percussional instruments,
Yep.
still there was always moods. And so I like to say they put stories into their music, not just with lyrics.
Nope.
So anyways, I think we can end this, I suppose.
I agree with everything you said, but I want to say thank you, Alice, so much for this. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love what you're doing. Thank you for what you've done, and I can't wait to post this. I mean,
Okay,
you're gonna
hopefully
have
it
to
looks all right.
share the crap out of this with the Rush fans and get out there and like so that more people can see your sites and stuff. So once again, a huge thank you for coming on Loud and Proud. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being a Canadian Rush fan. That's you can't. So thank you so
I
much.
am original Canadian Getty Corn.
I love it.
I am.
Well, you
It's
have yourself a
true.
fantastic day.
I will, and thank God it's Friday.
Thank you.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye bye.